Her mother passed away. She gazed at the brand new tombstone, seeing her own shadow under the morning light, inexplicably reminded of a line from Yu Xiuhua's poem, "You, the one I thought would cast a reflection on my tombstone." Of course, that poem was about love. Thinking of it now seemed absurd. But her mother's death was closely related to her love life. She would always believe that. That man was pale and thin, wearing rimless glasses, never making a loud noise, but possessing a steady temperament. During their courtship, she liked his stability. He could hold his tongue, never engaging in arguments, not particularly flamboyant, but definitely not timid either. At that time, he had just graduated, his social status not yet evident, with a lean demeanor. Most importantly, he was honest. When she asked why he chose her, he said, "Because you're good-looking, come from a good family, can cook, have a stable job. I'm just like this. What more could I ask for?" If he had said at that time, "Because I love you so much I could die," she would have found it dull. He spoke the plain truth, and she found that interesting. Besides, the love he gave was genuine. As soon as they were committed, he handed over his salary card, gave her the keys to the house, and let her make all the decisions at home. After all, life is about being practical, and she found his practicality both solid and economical, so she married him. The first year was great. The turning point in their relationship came when her uncle fell seriously ill. Her uncle was the most successful member of the whole extended family, wealthy and influential, gradually assuming the position of family head. Compared to her uncle, everyone else in the family seemed like nobodies, always seeking him out for help. Do you know anyone at the hospital? Anyone in the education bureau? Anyone in real estate? Any connections with top lawyers? Her family also benefited from her uncle's grace. Her father passed away early, and her mother's small business was supported by her uncle. Her uncle helped when she took the entrance exam for postgraduate studies, and he helped her get the lowest price when she bought a house. Having such an uncle was her family's trademark and backbone. Unexpectedly, her uncle suddenly developed emphysema. Then it was discovered he had pulmonary fibrosis. His life was hanging by a thread. There was no other way but to do a transplant. Even with all their connections, finding a donor was difficult. A living donor transplant was an option, and direct relatives or second-degree relatives within 3 generations could qualify as donors. Suddenly, her mother stepped forward, offering to donate part of her lung. Without saying a word, she went for various tests and met the criteria for donation. When she learned of this, she nearly went crazy. How could this be possible? That's her lung. It won't grow back. She could forsake all material wealth, but she couldn't forsake her mother. Her mother said, "Your uncle has agreed." Of course, he would agree. That was a given. She said, "I don't agree." She was impatient and immediately called the man, chattering away, essentially saying, "How could my mom do this? You get along well with her, you speak sensibly, and she listens to you. Can't you persuade her?" He pondered for a moment and said, "I'll try." That evening when he came back, he called her mom in front of her. He wasn't smooth-talking or overly serious, but his sincerity was just right. However, her mom said she had already made up her mind. He glanced at her with difficulty. She couldn't help but blurt out angrily, "So, what if you've decided? Can't you change your mind? Don't you consider yourself? Think about us too." Her mom said, "When you were young, your uncle and I were closest. We even split a bun in half to share. Besides, what I'm doing is for your own good. If he's a bit careless, it will be enough for you both for a lifetime." Her words almost made her cry. She didn't want this kind of good. She wanted her mom to live well and not suffer. But she lacked the ability to express herself eloquently. All she could do was get angry and say harsh words. "You think you're noble, but you're actually selfish. When you're unwell in the future, it will be us taking care of you. So, this is what you think. Isn't what I said the truth?" At that moment, she was also confused. In fact, this wasn't what she meant to express, but for some reason, this concept suddenly popped into her mind and slipped out. Then the conversation between them became increasingly harsh, with her mom saying she didn't need her interference, and she saying she would cut off ties unless her mom relented. After hanging up, she nagged him all night, feeling heartbroken. He didn't say anything. When she asked why he was silent, he said he thought the most important thing to do now was to listen. It made sense, so she talked incessantly for 2 hours. 2 days later, she called her mom again, and her mom's tone softened. "You're not the only one opposed to this." Right, see? Her mom's old friends disagreed, and even her younger sister-in-law disagreed. Of course, they might have disagreed a few days ago, but her mom didn't listen until she threatened to cut ties, which struck a chord with her mom. She could feel that there was room for negotiation in this matter. She had to go back to her hometown and explain things to her mom face to face. As she packed her things, he suddenly said, "Have you ever thought, if you persuade your mom and your uncle dies later, how hard it will be for her in the future? If she's already been matched as a donor, what will happen then?" At that moment, she was rolling up her underwear and packing it into the suitcase. When she heard this, her movements slowed down. She didn't know when she started listening to him so much, because he always considered things thoroughly, thinking of aspects she hadn't considered. So what should she do? She knew that if she went back and had a big fight with her mom, or made her stance clear to her uncle, or even just pretended to confine her mom, this matter could definitely be prevented. She would just be doing a bad thing, sending more money to the hospital to settle the matter. Her uncle had more than just her mom as a sister. Why should it be her mom donating the lung? But then she thought of another problem. He was counting on her uncle to help him with his job transfer. If successful, his income would increase significantly, and there would be many more places to rely on her uncle in the future. Should she be angry at him for saying such things? She couldn't get angry. She held the financial power in the household. Him saying this, wasn't it also for the good of this small family? Besides, he was speaking the truth. Her mom genuinely wanted to contribute. Her mom had always been so selfless. For someone who found joy in giving, having reached this point, if they stopped her, she would definitely blame the two of them later. After some thought, she continued packing her things into the suitcase, but her decisive tone had turned into a sigh. "I'll still go back." On the way, she searched on her phone again for the consequences of lung donation. Online sources said there would definitely be aftereffects, such as fatigue, increased sensitivity to environmental pollution, and so on. Her mood was different from 2 days ago when she searched. Back then, she focused more on the negatives to persuade her mom. But now, as she searched again, her mood was more objective, wanting to consider both the good and the bad. When mother and daughter met, the pain was palpable, but other things mixed in, making her feel a hesitation in her words. Her mom talked about how close they were as siblings when they were young, and she cried, tears streaming down her face, unsure if she was crying for her mom, for herself, or for the dilemma of life. She spent a night at home, saying she hoped her mom would think it over for herself. Her voice was low. Her mom said she didn't understand their bond. She didn't say anything more, just silently cried. The next day, they went to see her uncle together. She had a lot she wanted to say to her uncle, but when she saw how weak he was when he spoke, her heart softened again. It wasn't just because he was pitiful, but also because of his gratitude. When had she ever seen him like this? Never. He was usually strategic, politically savvy, calculating, and eloquent. But now, he was just someone on the brink of death, with a strong will to live. This made her unable to say anything she had planned to say. The anger she had harbored over the past few days had dissipated. She swallowed it down, maintaining her composure. Coming out of the hospital room, her mom said, "When I'm old and sick, don't take care of me." She looked dazed, as if she were the one undergoing surgery, not her mom. What organs had she already had removed? Her chest felt empty. After a moment, she asked with difficulty, "Are you really going to do it? Have the doctors explained the pros and cons clearly?" They have. She remembered what her man had said. If he had been unkind to her and hadn't given her money, his words would have been despicable. But he was very caring at home, always considering her. Her emotions had long been inclined towards her own small family, towards him. She was torn between two choices, grabbing her mom's arm to say something sorrowful, but feeling her mom's body stiffen, unwilling to be pulled into an argument. She quickly let go and said angrily, "I won't care about you anymore." After leaving the hospital, her mom urged her to go back to work. "Don't worry about me," her mom said. "A person has 5 lobes of lungs. If I give him 2, we can both live. I save his life, and when I'm unwell, won't his whole family, including the children, take care of me?" Why was she bringing up this topic again? She exclaimed, "You know that's not what I mean. I'm just worried about you." If it's not what you mean, then you wouldn't have said it. Any idea that comes from thin air is still an idea. Fine, I won't argue with you. She felt ashamed and angry, heading back home. Her mom, also stubborn and refusing to admit defeat, sent a voice message on WeChat, saying that she didn't even need her to come back to take care of her after the transplant surgery. Her uncle had already arranged for advanced caregivers. Furthermore, when she had children in the future, she might not have the energy to take care of them herself. Her uncle had already thought of that, promising to cover the cost of a nanny and all the expenses for the family. From now on, this young couple could live carefree lives. Her mom's tone even seemed a bit proud and sanctimonious. She squeezed out the word "little" from under her skin. After thinking for a while, not knowing how to reply, she finally said, "No matter when, you will always be my mom. If you agree, I'd rather donate." Of course, her mom couldn't possibly agree, and the ethics committee wouldn't approve it either. Her words were just a way to ease the emotional tension between them. She knew that donating organs required approval from the ethics committee. Their principle was that elders could donate to younger family members. Siblings and spouses were also likely to be approved, but it was unlikely for younger family members to donate to elders. Perhaps they had a standard for measuring the value of life. Anyway, she wouldn't step forward. Even if everyone agreed, it wouldn't happen. She cherished her life. Fortunately, her words had ultimately helped mend the relationship between mother and daughter. During her mom's transplant surgery, both she and he went back to the city hospital in their hometown to wait. Their hometown was also a provincial capital with advanced medical technology, and her uncle had pulled some strings, so they both stayed in single rooms. This time, they received grand treatment. Her aunt, cousin, and even their in-laws were respectful when speaking to them. Her uncle's business partners, all wealthy and influential people, came one after another to visit, bringing generous gifts and exchanging pleasantries with the young couple. The surgery was considered successful, but it all depended on the recovery. Both of them would have to take medication for the rest of their lives, but if they maintained good health, the doctor said it wouldn't affect them much. However, her mom's complexion was no longer the same. Someone who had endured hardship and labor before now looked pale and lacked the vigor in her voice, which seemed to come from her nose rather than her chest. Seeing her mom like this made her feel guilty. One day, a very influential person came, and her uncle arranged for them to have dinner together. Unexpectedly, they were in the mood to drink. Her man also joined in, and as they drank, the private room became lively and boisterous. They were toasting to brotherhood, good fortune, and prosperity, all in high spirits. In such an upscale hotel, why were they indulging in such lowbrow activities? She was the only one in the room who didn't drink. Watching the crowd, she gradually became furious. She grabbed his elbow and whispered, "Stop drinking." He shook her off as if he hadn't heard and continued. After the dinner, he became familiar with everyone at the table, while she forced herself to endure. After they finished eating, he went to rest in the room her aunt had arranged nearby. When she returned in the middle of the night, he was still asleep. She clearly felt a rift forming, not just with him, but also with herself. She shouldn't have let a few words from him change her original intention. After all, she wasn't his biological mother. When her mom was ready to be discharged, she realized that her own health wasn't great either. She felt weak. At first, she thought it was just fatigue, but then she realized she didn't need to take care of her mom's needs, so why was she tired? Oh, maybe her period was irregular. She bought a pregnancy test and found out she was pregnant. She held her mom's hand and told her the news. Her mom's eyes welled up with tears. Not out of excitement, but out of weakness. This made her feel even more sad. Were power and vanity really worth turning her mom into this? As for the arrival of this child, she didn't feel much joy. It was just a byproduct of a moment of pleasure. She used to look forward to the child's arrival, but now she felt nothing. There was a desolation in her heart, a kind of emotion that she didn't even bother to dispel, allowing it to hold her captive, consuming her whole being. After her mom was discharged from the hospital, her health deteriorated significantly. On the other hand, her uncle recovered quite well. Her uncle was also very supportive financially, giving her 10,000 yuan every month and telling her to hire a nanny to take care of herself. Her uncle even suggested she look at houses, as he was willing to contribute to buying a bigger one for her. He also arranged for her man's job to be transferred, increasing his income by 50%. Everything seemed to be going well. They moved to a new house, bought a new car, hired a maid, and her uncle frequently called to inquire about their life. He even asked if she wanted to give birth in the United States or Hong Kong, saying he could help arrange it. Their social status underwent a dramatic change overnight, and they enjoyed flaunting it occasionally, reveling in the envy of their friends. However, she dared not mention the reasons behind it, nor her mom. Whenever she thought of her mom, her heart ached, and she felt almost ashamed. Shortly afterward, she gave birth to a daughter. Her mom came to see the baby and was delighted but couldn't hold her for long because she became breathless. Her mom had aged a lot. Before, she would always be bustling around, finding things to do, but now she just sat there. Her mom said, "Your uncle insisted on hiring a nanny to take care of me and wouldn't let me reopen my store. He's spoiled me." But she knew it wasn't like that. Her mom was just too weak to do anything. The nanny, unaware of the situation, asked, "Is your mom feeling unwell? Does she lack energy?" She smiled but felt a surge of resentment. If even the nanny could see it, couldn't her man? Why didn't he comfort her? In this whole ordeal, her mom was happy with her sacrifices, her uncle with his rebirth, and her man with his improved career prospects. Only she felt unsettled. Why couldn't he discuss this issue with her? When her mom was ready to leave, he was very considerate and drove for 7 hours to send her back. On the surface, he seemed faultless, but she felt a vague sense of disappointment. That day, he was so tired from driving back that she couldn't even bring herself to comfort him. They both went to sleep without exchanging a word. In the middle of the night, she woke up to her own snoring and found that he was snoring too. She used to think it was cute when they snored together, but now she just kicked him, and he woke up half asleep, his snoring stopping before she fell back asleep. She didn't know when it started, but their conversations became terse, almost like telegrams. He never protested. Perhaps this was the true face of marriage. She missed her old self a little, who was talkative and carefree, always speaking her mind. Now, if she had something to say, she'd rather play with her child or read a book. She started to like scar literature, immersing herself in it, but found it strange. Why were there so many wounded people in the world, accusing and exposing each other? Who were the specific perpetrators? She didn't know. Everyone seemed innocent. He also showed signs of weariness. He was animated when talking to his colleagues on the phone but lacked energy when talking to her. Their daughter was walking and calling him daddy. When she ran over to play with him, he came alive, but as soon as she left, he became lifeless again. When she talked to him, he was absent-minded, lacking warmth. She could tell he was trying to restrain himself, trying to do his duty. She was also doing her duty. They had enough money, but she didn't buy luxury goods. After work, she came straight home to be with the child. When he wanted to do something, even if she didn't want to, she complied. They didn't fight. They were just indifferent. Occasionally, there were moments of tenderness, like when they went out for dinner and shopping as a family, pushing their adorable baby in a fancy stroller. It looked heartwarming to outsiders, and the child was happy, babbling and giggling in the stroller. But the two adults, they were happy when the child was happy, but when the child stopped, they reverted to their emotionless state. Their relationship completely fell apart one day when he asked her to pick him up. His car had been scratched and sent for repairs, so he called her to give him a ride. After parking her car, she saw him walking to the parking lot with two female colleagues, chatting animatedly as they walked. He looked lively and confident. Those two women didn't seem particularly young or pretty, so why was he so enthusiastic? From head to toe, he seemed full of vitality. He was no longer the familiar him to her. He felt like a distant stranger. Moreover, he had already seen her car, yet he didn't avoid suspicion. Those two women were also very open and greeted her warmly when they saw her. She was unhappy on the way back. She said, "You seemed quite excited chatting with your female colleagues." He said, "Jealous." It's a pity she wasn't jealous. She just felt that he shouldn't be so happy. He didn't deserve it. If she had to pretend to be jealous, it would be boring. So she was honest. "Not jealous, it's up to you." "You're definitely jealous." This kind of conversation annoyed her, so she had to change the subject and talk about her mom. She had been very worried lately because her mom's health had been deteriorating. She saw her looking pale and thin during a recent video call. She said she felt very guilty. If she hadn't insisted on her mom undergoing that lung donation surgery, maybe things wouldn't be like this. He said, "Look at yourself. What about me? What's wrong with me? Wasn't it because you wanted my mom to donate? How did it become my idea? Didn't you go home and persuade your mom yourself? If you couldn't persuade her, why blame it on me? Are you daring to say you didn't hope for my mom to donate her lung?" she yelled. "I swear on my daughter." "Don't swear on my daughter. You did something heartless yourself. Why swear on my daughter? You're out of your mind." "Yes, I'm out of my mind. Look at you now, living a good life, in a big house, with a maid at home, not worrying about anything. Do you really think all of this is your own ability? You talk to other women as if you have no worries at home. Can't you have a little conscience?" Another car pulled up beside them, and someone shouted at them from inside. She pretended not to hear and continued to argue with him. "You're crazy," he said. "I'm crazy because of you. What did I force you to do? Drive already." She still didn't move, so he angrily got out of the car, and only then did she start driving. When they got home, they began to assign blame and claim credit. She said the big house was bought with half of her mom's life, and all the money in the house was hers. Although not all of it was earned by her, it was her savings. As for the good job he got, she considered it a gift from her. He asked her if she wanted a divorce. If she did, he wouldn't ask for anything to avoid her accusing him of persuading her mom to donate her lung. Once the word divorce was mentioned, there was no turning back. Who was afraid? Who would lose first? They argued for a couple of months, and both decided to divorce. It was too exhausting, they couldn't go on. Besides, there was no love left. Friends advised her, saying he didn't beat her or curse at her. He handed over his salary, gave her freedom. What else didn't he give her besides love? She wanted to say she leaned towards him because she loved him. That's why she agreed to that major thing about her mom. So why couldn't she receive love in return? But the words couldn't come out of her mouth. She didn't want to mention her mom's thing, fearing ridicule. Plus, with the child running around everywhere, saying the word love now was absurd. Apparently, everyone's marriage had no trace of love. It was all about dealing with affairs. Many girlfriends didn't even have sex anymore, so what was the point of talking about love? She kept her words to herself. After all, she had to get a divorce. Otherwise, she would live in the shadow forever, reminded of her mom's situation caused by him, and the money in her hands was all earned with her mom's life. When they divorced, he really didn't ask for anything, except to keep his job. In fact, the house wasn't entirely hers. He sold his premarital house and used some of her uncle's money to buy the big house, but he didn't want it. Seeing that he was quite fair, she also told her uncle not to interfere with his career. After all, he was the biological father of her daughter, and if he had a bit more money, he would be more proactive in providing for their child's expenses, right? She didn't dare tell her mom the real reason for the divorce, only that he wasn't a good person. Her mom couldn't understand why he wasn't good, and this angered her so much that she fell seriously ill. In the following year, she often went back to her hometown to see her mom. It only took a 3-hour high-speed train ride to get there, and she would accompany her mom to eat, chat, and sleep. To some extent, her guilt was alleviated. Sometimes she felt lonely and had sexual needs, but she could endure it. When she felt her suffering, she felt a bit relieved, as if it was deserved, necessary for fairness. In early spring, her mom suddenly caught a cold and unexpectedly developed acute myocarditis. Never did she expect that this seemingly minor illness would take her mother's life. Her mom passed away suddenly, and when she received the news, her mother was already in the morgue. She mechanically handled the funeral arrangements. Her eyes were vacant, her tongue was stiff. Despite shedding so many tears, her face was still swollen. Her uncle's family came to help, making elaborate arrangements, very generous. But she looked at the countless wreaths and felt like she was in a dream. She asked her cousin, her eldest cousin, "Is my mom really gone?" Her eldest cousin mumbled something about her father's poor health and couldn't be too sad. The meaning was clear. Don't blame our family for this. She returned to her previous state. Desolation engulfed her, and she finally had nothing. When she was in college, her roommate once said that a person shouldn't always feel like they're doing something for someone else. In fact, everything they do is for themselves. For example, if you love someone and make sacrifices for them, it's because you also benefit from those sacrifices, or you feel closer through obedience. It's all voluntary. She agreed with this statement, but still couldn't accept it. Perhaps what she couldn't accept the most was herself, feeling guilty regardless of betrayal. Her mother's tombstone was erected on that clear morning, black marble with some crystals shimmering in the sunlight. Her shadow covered it, and she really wanted to sketch that outline, just on her mother's tombstone. Her phone rang. It was him calling, probably wanting to pay his respects. She didn't answer. She felt empty and chaotic, realizing that life was just like this, full of uncertainties, speechless.